Hi, welcome back to Indies Under the Knife, the series where I look at indie games that are sent to me and make suggestions about how I think they could be made better. I'm Dr. Joe Baxter Webb. I have correct opinions about game design which are always right, and I'm here to give them to you today. Now, we've got a bit of a kind of special case today because the developer who has sent me their work is only 16. And if you think that means that I'm going to be nice, not capable of that. I suppose I might have to be nice for legal reasons to some degree, duty of care and all that kind of stuff. But no, today we're going to be looking at Undergoes, a stylized survival horror game where players navigate and drill ship through procedurally generated mines, gather resources, craft tools and build bases while fending off dangerous enemies, which is quite nice. And just to give you a bit of background, so this is made by David, who says, I'm a 16-year-old indie developer. I'm still learning a lot about game development. Your videos have been incredibly helpful to help me understand game design principles. Thank you, David. I launched a Steam page for my game and would love your feedback on the trailer and the way the entire page is organised. It isn't very structured at the moment and I'm not sure if it effectively captures the game's appeal. While I've addressed many of the issues in the full game, I feel the demo might still lack a clear objective and comes across as boring. Additionally, I'm concerned that the Steam page might look unprofessional or not effectively appeal to the intended audience. I mean, we love to see it. This is a great introduction to the project. I've been, this is an email kind of telling me what the developer thinks is wrong already, which only about 50% of the emails I receive do this, and increasingly, because the channel has got more popular, I get emails that are just, I wouldn't call them spam, but they are not directly addressed to me, and they're not asking for help. They're just saying, will you play my game? And they're clearly like, sent out to 10 different content creators, regardless of what type of content creator they are. This is the kind of message I like to receive. It sort of tells me, I've got this problem, can you help me with it? And it's so visually weird, but in a really nice way. Who's that? Who is she? Wow, that's a weird guy. The rhythm editing in this trailer is pretty good. When that guitar comes in and out, or guitar type thing. It's like cut to the bar of the music. Like music video editing type stuff is good. There are a few things here that I think are quite good practice. First of all, there is stuff happening in some of these shots, right? We at least see the player is exploring an environment. And one of the things I do like is that shot for shot, there is a different thing happening in some shots. This shot is about the player running, this shot is about seeing a monster come around the corner, and so on. Yeah, there's variety there. And like the absolute worst kind of indie game trailer I ever see is just like character walking, character walking, character walking, character walking. I see loads like that, and it always looks like the kind of project you get when someone is an environmental designer but not actually a game designer, because they haven't focused on what the player is doing. The shots are quite varied in terms of what they show, but we're not seeing a lot of what the player does. And maybe we'll see that when we play the game. It's very moody though. I like this kind of this art style. Sort of reminds me a bit of Dave McKean, who was like a sort of psychedelic collage artist he's still going, but if you know Sandman through the TV series, it's this film MIRRORMASK that Neil Gaiman did with him. It's kind of reminding me of this sort of strange, warped surrealism that is kind of a weird mix of like stuff that is beautiful and pretty and stuff that is a bit dirty looking. I think Undergoes has got that kind of vibe to it, and I like that. But that does raise some questions about what sort of game this is, because at the moment I don't see a great deal of action. I see a tool, which to me suggests it's going to be a survival crafting game of some description, but then when I see the creatures, they're not attacking us. At the moment it says it's a stylized survival horror game. I mean, here it looks like there's some building going on, so maybe that is, but I'm going to look at the gameplay in a second. But at the moment, this kind of psychedelic, really visually interesting thing doesn't make me think of any survival horror game I've ever played. It makes me think of stuff like, I don't know if people watching at home are familiar with games like Jazzpunk, sort of surreal, cartoonish art games that, you know, they have some gameplay, but they're not designed to like be a forever game, like a game that you play over and over again necessarily. They're there to sort of just give you a glimpse into a strange made up world, you know. Here you go. Here's a clip of Jazzpunk, which I think, you know, given David's aesthetic sensibilities, I think when I use a phrase like art games, people think that needs to be a super serious thing that is about like something really grim, you know, like a indie art house film would be. But Jazzpunk is an example of what I would consider an art game that is entertaining and goofy and over the top and stuff. And I think we've got like a whole generation of new indie developers who haven't played any games like this, who, you know, think that their game needs to have gameplay loops and all this stuff. And normally I'm a total advocate for that, right? I think designing a game is creating an activity for people, and often the best way to do that is just to make a good version of something that already exists and then put little twists on it. But what I've seen so far from David's trailer and the description of the game, it's like maybe this very strange artsy art style suggests a totally different kind of game from what the gameplay is going to be, right? Because I see this art style and I think, you know, weird experimental student game. I don't necessarily think, oh, this is a world that I'm going to want to build a house in. And I'll be the first to say, I have not played every game in this genre. So when you say sort of survival crafting, which this looks like it is, it says build bases. I'm not like an expert at this genre. It seems like no matter how much I say that about a genre of games, people still pop up in the comments and go, oh, you don't know enough about this genre to judge it. I'm always gonna judge things versus something in that genre that's very popular and not necessarily like the cult thing that is maybe a bit janky but lots of people love it. Like, that's not really my reference point for a lot of things. So if I think of like survival crafting games with a horror element, I think of The Forest. If I think back to my experience of playing The Forest, there's obviously like a central fantasy there that most people can latch onto, of the idea of like living in a wilderness and building a little house, and there's a lot of natural beauty there. And you also get this kind of progression throughout the game of transitioning this place from being, you know, totally lethal to being gradually a little bit more safe for you. That is the thing that you need to nail in a survival game, which is also about crafting and building stuff. You really have to have an environment that someone wants to live in to some degree and explore. And then you also need to give the player the tools to gradually make that place safer. So if you're doing those two things, then you've probably made a decent entry into the genre. But if you've just got one of those elements, like, okay, I can make the place generally safer, but it's not really a place I want to live in, then that might be a problem. And The Forest has got all this natural beauty. Now, I think David's game might have a different sort of beauty that has its own kind of appeal. Well, that's very colourful, isn't it? So, fun fact, I just played 10 minutes of this game and recorded it, and I kept thinking, this music is really over the top, this music doesn't fit this tutorial at all. But this music is very intense for an opening tutorial. And then I realised it was because I was still playing the Steam trailer in the background and it was looping. So now I'm going to have to restart the recording and pretend that I'm responding for the first time when I'm actually not. Yeah, this is very MIRRORMASK. David, you need to watch MIRRORMASK if you haven't, because I think you could get a lot from it, and it, even if it's just, you know, in your style and something you would enjoy. Okay, I'm mining mushrooms. I like bioluminescent mushrooms. I love a mushroom with a light on it, but I don't like the fact that as soon as I've knocked the mushroom down, I then can't see. I eat one. My bar go up. Just like eating in real life. Man, these textures, it's really cool looking. Very cool looking. It's just, again, it comes back down to that question of like, is this a world that someone wants to build a little house in? Place an object by clicking with an item in hand. Don't have an item in hand, David. Ah, okay, I can mine these blocks. And then I get the ability to build. Very well structured tutorial. Obviously this is the sort of stuff that you will refine over time and you will change over time, but at the moment the tutorial was very well structured. Yeah, it feels good. We're missing a few sound effects. We're missing some when you place things down. Like, I think this one is my inventory down here. We could do with the backpack symbol or something. So I'll let you in on a secret. When I played this the first time, I got to this point and got stuck for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, and it was quite funny. So I sort of was in this place trying to work out what this thing on the floor was, and I spent ages trying to mine these, and then I sort of realized that this is a recipe, right? So when I put the things together in my inventory like this, it makes this. But it took me a while. So I think one of the benefits of this specific channel is you get to see how stupid people can be at games and how idiot proof your tutorial needs to be. Because if I can't do it, you know, I literally have a PhD. And I know that doesn't make someone smart in every single way. I know that there are lots of very kind of academically smart people who are a dumbass in various other ways. But I got stuck here for way too long. But I would hesitate to say that you should change it because of that. Because I think when I did finally work out this amazingly elaborate puzzle, it was really satisfying. So, you know, tutorials, it's always like dumb it down more, dumb it down more. But I actually quite like this method because you're encouraging people to think in the way that the game needs you to think later on. So I'm not necessarily saying, oh, I got stuck here, you must change it. And the other thing to bear in mind is the way that games are now with us, you know, so many of us get into games by watching people play them. Some of these potential issues around tutorialization go away because you've already seen someone else play deeper into the game and you know how it works. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. I think it's the underground mushroom spores kicking in. Ugh. I think these are supposed to be wood and stone, but the wood looks a little bit like, kind of looks like a sleeping bag, like a bedroll, rather than, oh, I threw my little crafting bench on the floor. Love that these icons look sort of like claymation or something. Not sure what's going on with this paper. I think that might be one step of stylization too much for me. Cool interface though. I click left and right and it goes through it. And there's some stuff here where it's like, okay, chair. Some stuff where it's kind of obvious what it is, and then some other stuff where it's not. Not necessarily a bad thing, because it's about exploration and just trying stuff out. But I am going to build a fire first, because at the moment this game is way too dark. I'm going to build a fire because I want to be able to see. I sort of like how this looks stylistically, but I feel like I can't really see what's going on. Maybe it's just not letting me build because I'm supposed to be grabbing an idyllico. That's the fruit. Kill that stone scorpion by spamming the left mouse button. Okay, but I'm gonna eat a mushroom first. Yum yum yum. Is the humming coming from the scorpion? Don't know if you can hear that. Let me just turn it up for a sec. It's creepy. Are you a scorpion? I'm just going to see if I can turn the brightness up somehow. I think there are just a few too many patches where you can't really see anything. I think I missed the last message. It said we're being sent here. It's so cool looking, but I think there is quite a lot of like sections of total blackness, and I think in a context where players are going to be building stuff that they want to be able to look at, then the darkness might start being a problem there. We're getting a bit more sound effects. That's not grammatically correct. We're getting a few more sound effects here, which makes me happy. What's this? Ah, I'm dying in a fire. That's the sound of dying in a fire. Pida. What's going on with you, dear friend? Oh, I don't like it. See, we're getting our horror bit now. That's really creepy and strange. Nice and big and easy to hit. Give me your spider meat. Give me your eggs. Whoa. Cave centipede meat. A family treat. I'm having trouble picking things up. Okay, I just run over them. I need to remember what type of game this is. It's a chopper the tree, chopper the stone kind of game. So I need to do those things. And I'm gonna build my home up here, if I can. Stone, stone. I don't know why that... Ah, it makes two because I put stacks in. Oh, yeah. Okay, I can see it a bit better now. It looks okay. Right. We want a fire. Wood, wood, wood. See, yeah, I'm not sure I like the interface where it sort of tricks you into making multiple of something straight away. A stone. I need one of those granite type stones to make a fire, and I can't find one. And I don't think this is the right one, because if I look in the book, yeah, that's not the right type of thing to make a fire with. Is it these? Do I need to mine these? Look at that little sort of moving it up and down when you whack it to kind of show that you're interacting. It's a cheap trick, but it's good. It kind of works. There's a certain clunkiness to the interface and everything here, but I kind of like it. I feel like it's doing something, and I like that we can't really work out what every one of these things is. It fits with the art style. It's like the way that the game is kind of generally structured is surreal. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna make a standard survival crafting game and then just make everything look a bit weird. It's like it is generally weird across the board, and I like that. I like that. I'm also weird across the board. What I don't like is that my sort of survival instinct is to want to build the fire as early as possible, because that's what these games have generally entrained me to do. And I just can't find that other type of stone that I'm supposed to have to put on top of the fire. So just to take a moment to do some of what I was actually very politely asked to do by David, which is think about how he's marketing this. I currently don't think this is a survival horror game. It's creepy, right? And maybe other people will think of it as a horror game. Maybe just horror means anything creepy. But like when I was fighting those bugs a moment ago, there wasn't any sort of tension music or anything. It felt more like I was hunting prey rather than being hunted by something. And they could attack me as far as I could tell, but it didn't feel particularly threatening. So at the moment, this doesn't seem like a survival horror game. Stylized is a little bit too broad to mean anything. I would just call it surreal, maybe, because then you're kind of telling people in what way it's stylized if you call this surreal. And you're also kind of evoking the art movement that, you know, if someone says surrealist painting, they kind of roughly know that it's going to be something like this. So I would call it surreal rather than stylized, or both. Undergoes is a stylized surreal blah 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 game. So far it feels like it's a survival crafting game. I'm not getting horror from it yet. My hunger bar goes down quite quickly, and I seem to just have this one cave, and I can't see how I'm gonna build a life for myself here. Is that a... And I get that what you're doing is a stylistic choice, but again, like, it's very hard to see these tunnels. Okay, so I've got a tunnel to a new area. I think the visibility of just having these pure black walls is... Oh look, we've got a bit of a texture over there. I mean, that wall texture is at least, you know, now when I look at that black tree, I can see it against that wall. Whereas all of the rooms I've been in so far, this pure black, it's just too much. We've got a place to explore. Okay, now we've got stuff. We've got stuff. There's chairs in here. There's like pre-made stuff. There's some spiky diamonds. Oh, don't drop your pickaxe, Joe. I don't seem to have a control I can use to rotate items, which is a shame because, whoa, no need to throw it. I'd like to be able to rotate items, and I'm not sure how. But this is my porch where I'll sit here and play my banjo. Oh yeah, look at this. I really think there is an appeal to this style. I hope other people do as well, so as is always the case, remember to leave a comment in the old whatever it's called where you put the comments. I really like the visual style of this. I just think the amount of black and the amount of areas where the visibility is too low, and I don't have any way of affecting that because I'm not, you know, carrying my own light source. I don't know why these like green beans are following me around the screen. That's a bug, but don't care too much about that right now. The game is so weird though, like the art style and the sort of setting is so strange that I'm not sure if we should have names like limestone and copper. I played a game on here a couple of months ago called The Hell. Shout out to Hell Governor and your team who are in our Discord now. And this is a city builder where you are building in hell, or the underworld, I guess. It's not necessarily a fire and brimstone Christian hell that you might imagine. But one of the problems this game had was that all of the resources were so strange and hard to get your head around that it was very difficult to sort of key in and go, oh right, yeah, I want to build this. That's going to involve 10 stone and 5 wood. And, you know, creatively speaking, they'd gone down this route that I was just suggesting for David's game, which is to, you know, say, well, this is a weird world, so the materials should be weird. And thinking back to this example, maybe that's not right, because I, you know, had an experience of playing a game where all of the resources were strange, unique things, and I completely bounced off of it because there was nothing for me to, like, mentally anchor what anything would do in the game. You know, I couldn't bring any of my assumptions about what building materials are and stuff to this game, and I think it harmed the game and it made it difficult to understand. I don't know where they're with it now. I know they're constantly developing this game, so it might go in a different direction, but I do know that was a thing I struggled with when I played The Hell. Back to the game, and I am starving to death, so time to eat a little mushroom. So I'm not going to play this for ages and get super into the crafting system and trying to build loads of stuff. I think if you find this visually interesting, you should go and check out that demo. It seems like a very generous demo in terms of what you can do. I don't see any locked crafting recipes or anything like that. So yeah, if you've been watching this and you find this interesting, then go and check it out and give David some feedback. From me, the key things are like addressing the issue with the darkness. The bioluminescent mushrooms are great, but I don't like that thing where you pick one up and then suddenly you can't see anything. It's not a good thing. There are a few sound effects missing. These are tiny things, right? But there are a few sound effects missing in like moving things around in inventory. And then in terms of the marketing, it's just, if this is horror, then it really does need to have that kind of thing that the forest has, where, okay, you're building your little shelter and stuff, and then stuff comes to attack you. And so far, the threats in this game, if you can even call them that, are much more akin to just like an animal mob in Minecraft that you go up to and punch until it gives you some meat. And that's not horror, really. It's like an element of a survival game. It's hunting for something. It might be a case of this becomes a horror game because you add more threatening stuff, or it might just be that this is a wondrous, strange, surreal survival crafting game, which is fine if it is. But in the marketing, kind of think about that. We're in this weird time now, right? When people used to design games, they did it in private, and now we're sort of in this place where you everything is early access if you're an indie, right? If you're making a game and you want to make sure that it's tested enough and that, you know, people have had a chance to weigh in on it before you start charging people $5 or $10 or $20 for your game, then you have to develop it publicly. And there's a feedback loop between the marketing and the design of, if you say it's a horror game and you're saying it's a horror game to people and they come to expecting it to be a horror game, they're going to say, make it more scary, put more scary stuff in. But that might not necessarily be what you need this to be, right? And I think the stylization, the strange dreaminess, it is creepy in a particular way, but it's only going to be horror if stuff actively comes after me and chases me down in the game, which might be a cool direction to go in, particularly if you can get some really big, strange, weird dream monsters into this. But if it doesn't have that element, then it might need something else. And at the moment, it's like, okay, we're going to have this procedural generation going from cave to cave. How do you have some like big set pieces where perhaps someone has been through three of these kind of smaller caves, and then the next one they go into is a big kind of wow? Because at the moment, I think I've already experienced that on a smaller scale with going from, you know, that first cave, which I actually couldn't see an exit from because the pathways are not lit. And it's quite difficult you sort of have to go around the edge of the room and hug the edge of the room to find the pathways into the next room, which is a problem. But that first room I was in this section, going from there and then coming into this space that has like some architectural interest, like these ruins and stuff, that's great. That's a really nice progression to go from one type of space, go, okay, there's not much, and go and explore. And then the next space you find isn't just a different shaped version of the last room. It actually has something different about it. And I think, I don't know if what I've been generated here is kind of representative of a pattern that other people might see, but you know, I'm not going to sit here and replay it 10 times and see how it's different each time. But I think as long as you can structure the procedural generation so that it does that, it's like you have different types of rooms. Imagine they are letters in the alphabet, right? And A is a small cave, and B is a room with ruins, and C is some other type of thing. And you create a cadence for how the rooms are generated. So it might be A, B, A, B, A, B, C. Right, and then A, B, A, B, C, C, D, that kind of thing. So you kind of treat your generation of spaces and places like almost like it's a deck of cards where certain things can occur more often. I mean, this is what the procedure is in procedural generation. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to scribble a pathway into this rock and that will be caves. You need to still think about it from an experience design point of view, and like, what is the player going to get in what sequence? And although there is a degree of randomness to it, and that's what makes roguelikes and proc gen games work from a sort of extending the shelf life of the game perspective, you still need to have some sort of quality control there and make sure that, you know, every player by the 10th room they enter is going to at least have seen this thing, and this thing, right? Because otherwise you're going to give people a really uneven experience, and some people might just bounce off the game because the generation isn't giving them like an interesting set of things in their first couple of hours. So I would think about that, and like if you're not going to ramp up the horror so that it's a genuinely threatening horror game, then the exploration is going to be more important, and the sense of wow when you come into a new place. what I see from this game so far, and what I see from the art style, and just the level of creativity in this, you know, I think you're fully equipped to provide that. If you did want to go down that route of this is a survival crafting, surreal dream game with kind of lots of emphasis on exploration and finding places, everything I've seen so far kind of tells me that you could make it that if you wanted to. But you do have to go and watch Dave McKean and Neil Gaiman's MIRRORMASK movie, because it's amazing, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. And also, I'm an old man who likes to recommend things from bygone years. So yeah, if that one looks interesting to you and you want to check it out for yourself, give David some of your feedback, then please go and check it out. The link will be in the description as always. That's all from me today. And remember, eat your mushrooms. They're a great source of vitamin D, but avoid the bioluminescent ones that grow underground, and watch out for the stone scorpions.